Hello, everybody, and welcome to Beyond Mount Rushmore. I'm Jeff Hickcox, and across from me, my buddy and pal, Stan Nawalaniec, our self-proclaimed
That's right.
presidential historian.
Hey, everybody.
How y'all doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good.
We were discussing this one in the week that we were off. First of all, and I'm going to say this, Calvin Coolidge, our 30th president, he ranks middle of the pack.
Yeah.
As far as presidents go.
Nothing crazy.
Nothing spectacular. But you know why? But you know why?
Why?
And think about this.
Okay.
Most of our presidents who rank, the best president, top 5, were our war presidents.
Right, yeah.
FDR getting us through the Depression.
Yeah.
You know, everybody it looks at a war president or
Kennedy in the Cuban Missile Crisis.
getting us through a tragedy.
Yeah.
Coolidge maybe should rank a little higher because America was prosperous.
Yes.
We were not at war.
Nope.
And everybody was doing pretty darn good.
Yeah, it was between wars, actually.
It sure was. And for the most part, he was a president that the government stayed out of your business.
Yeah.
You did your own thing. You wanted to throw big hooping parties and brew your own liquor? It was no problem.
That's over now.
Yes. Calvin Coolidge, they call him Silent Cal. He didn't have much to say.
No.
He preferred it that way.
Mm-hmm.
He was a strange guy because you would think most presidents are outgoing, gregarious campaigners.
Yes.
Trying to get their message across.
Big egos.
Ego. You know what? And you bring up that, I don't know that he had an ego.
Yeah.
He didn't care.
Not from what I've read, no.
He was also an odd man.
He was very odd.
Set in his ways and beliefs. This is what we hope to convey in this podcast, that he had some quirks and oddities that other presidents didn't have.
No. Quite a few.
First, a little background on him. He was born John Calvin Coolidge, but quickly dropped the John. He didn't like it. He was born, and he's our only president, born on the 4th of July. We have a lot of presidents who passed away on the 4th of July.
Which we did an episode on,
We sure did. But he is the only president born on the 4th of July.
How about that?
1872, Plymouth Notch, Vermont. He lost his mother, Victoria, to tuberculosis when he was 12 years old. When he was 17, his younger sister and only sibling, Abigail, died from an appendicitis. So he was, him and his dad, that was it.
Yeah.
He was educated at Amherst College and became an attorney in Massachusetts. His first position in politics was that of Northampton, Massachusetts city solicitor.
Oh.
He then became a representative in the Massachusetts House and State Senate, and after that became mayor of Northampton. Nationally, before becoming vice president, he was the 48th governor of Massachusetts.
I did not know that part.
He was popular. He was well-liked and became the nominee for vice president in 1920 on the Warren Harding ticket. So Harding, who was very outgoing, a true campaigner, had a guy like Calvin Coolidge.
Yeah.
Did I guess, balance the ticket.
You could say he balanced the ticket.
Personally, he married Grace Anna Goodhue in 1905. They had 2 children, John and Calvin Jr. We'll discuss those 2 later.
Yeah, we will.
Interesting story with one of them, and a pretty historic story with the other. If you haven't guessed by now, Calvin Coolidge, although highly educated, he was an introvert.
Yeah.
Didn't like a lot of stuff going on around him. He kept to himself. Perhaps the most famous example, I don't know if you, in your research with Calvin, you ran across this. It's famous. This concerned a society matron who told Coolidge at a dinner party, quote, "Mr. Vice President, I made a bet with my friends that I could get you to say at least 3 words this evening." He looked her straight in the eye and said, quote, "You lose."
I didn't read that one, but you told me that one when we were discussing the episode.
Yeah, looked her right
hilarious.
in the eye. You lose. Now, as vice president, he realized he couldn't stay in Massachusetts. He had to at least spend some time in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
So he kept an $8 a day suite at the famous Willard Hotel in Washington, D.C. In 2026 money, that's about $131 a day for a room at the Willard.
Okay, that's actually not a bad price.
No. And because of that, he and his wife had to dine out often.
Oh.
When asked, well, this is the humor of Calvin Coolidge.
Apparently dry.
And I'll get into that, too. He almost cruel dry humor. But when asked why they attended so many social functions, Calvin Coolidge responded, I got to eat somewhere. He became president in one of the oddest ways imaginable, and only Calvin Coolidge could handle it the way he did. Coolidge was in Vermont visiting his father in their hometown when he received a telegram in the early morning of August 3rd, 1923, announcing that President Warren Harding had died suddenly in San Francisco. Episode coming up, his wife probably.
Yeah. I was going to say, we're going to be talking about that really soon.
But it came through a telegram, not a phone call in his father's house, because he didn't have a telephone. Well, you had to go into the little town where I guess maybe the post office, I think, had a communications place there where you could get telegrams. And that's how Coolidge found out about that Harding had died.
That he'd become president.
Bright and early at 2:47 in the morning. His father was a notary. So he said, son, come on down to the kitchen after getting the telegram.
Yeah.
And issued the oath of office to his son in the kitchen just before 3 o'clock in the morning via kerosene lamp, because his father also did not have electricity in his house because he was afraid of it.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of times back then, people were afraid of it.
Yeah. But it also seems like the apple didn't fall too far from the tree.
No. So Coolidge takes the oath of office at just before 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
What's he do? Went to bed. Said, okay, that's
Thanks,
taken
Pops.
care.
Good night.
Yeah, and he went right back to bed. Slept through the night. Are you getting the idea? He's a little odd.
Don't you think if you were just gotten sworn in as the president at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm not going to sleep.
No. You're going to make arrangements. Let's get into Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
I got to take the reins of government.
Right.
No, he went back to bed. Odd man, odd. Now, after completing Harding's term, Coolidge won his own election, so he still had the ability to run for president himself and run for re-election.
You say twice.
So in 1924, Coolidge won his own election in his own right with the slogan, keep cool with Coolidge.
Well, it's apropos.
Yep. As we said, he was an introvert, a man of very few words.
Yeah.
But the media of the day was radio.
Right.
There was no television. Movies were around. They were silent.
Yes.
Radio was how you communicated, and he took full advantage of the new medium, and he gave a bunch of speeches via the radio.
Yeah, he did. He really knew how to use it.
And people were a little confused by that because they know him. Oh, Silent Cal doesn't like to say a lot, but yet he did these radio speeches. People didn't know how to react to that.
Yeah.
Here is C-SPAN's Brian Lamb on how Coolidge capitalized on the new medium of radio.
He started the radio use, did over 40 speeches on the radio, and that was successful back then because his radio presence was different than what you saw when you see him on video. Calvin Coolidge had to be the pioneer for radio. Even though President Harding had used the radio, it was recorded. Calvin Coolidge did it live.
And that's it. They would bring the equipment into the White House, and They'd point the finger at him. You're live going across the country.
And he did it well. And the thing is, I think it's he didn't like big crowds, right? So if you're sitting there by yourself, it's easier to talk.
And I'm going to tell you right now, if you haven't ever been in the radio business or speak in front of a large, it's two different things.
It is completely different. And yeah, it's easier for me to talk inside a studio than it is in front of 100 people, even 5 people.
Right. Because think of it as you're talking to somebody one-on-one.
Right.
If you're in the studio and you have a radio partner or you're interviewing somebody, it's one-on-one.
Right.
You're not in front of a crowd, in front of thousands, or as you said, even 5 people.
Yeah.
It's different.
It is a big difference.
As we said, Coolidge, very quirky, odd man. Not just simply going to bed after becoming president or eating out every night because he didn't know how to cook a meal, nor did his wife, because they lived in a room in Washington.
Right.
He's an odd man. One of his most bizarre habits involved his health and grooming.
It's creepy.
Calvin Coolidge believed that having Vaseline rubbed onto his head while he ate breakfast in bed was good for your health. He would literally sit there being massaged with petroleum jelly while eating a poached egg.
Right, but he had a rubber cap on.
He believed this is what he you know what, I tell you, it probably felt good. That was a ritual of his.
Yeah.
I don't know that it caught on. The skull rub caught on.
Yeah.
But Vaseline, I don't know. Have you ever rubbed your head with Vaseline?
No.
He also loved animals. Okay.
He did.
So you're an animal lover. What's so odd or quirky about that?
Go ahead, Stan. Tell him.
He pardoned a raccoon.
That's right, he did.
Now, here's the story behind that. Someone sent him a raccoon at Thanksgiving time.
Like a turkey.
Like
now.
it would be a turkey.
Right.
Urging the president, you need to try raccoon meat for Thanksgiving because it's a beautiful, gamey food. He and the first lady, much like they do today with the turkeys,
right.
He pardoned the raccoon and had traditional turkey for Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah.
He also decided to keep the raccoon. He named it Rebecca. Reporters claim that the raccoon had run of the house.
He did.
Servants, butlers, all of them said that they'd get them caught in their feet. They'd skedaddle and try to trip them and stuff like that.
Go into the cabinets.
Yep. Got too unruly. They donated Rebecca to a zoo.
Yeah.
They had to donate a lot of animals to the zoo.
It's not just a raccoon that they have.
No. Word got out around the world. Oh, he pardoned a raccoon and he loves animals. Let's send him animals. Yeah. A lot of animals. A lot of hot animals.
Yes.
Calvin Coolidge received as pets, which he had to give to the zoo, a pygmy hippo, 2 lion cubs named Tax Reduction and Budget Bureau.
My tax reduction's my favorite one.
A wallaby.
Yeah.
An antelope.
Yep.
A black bear.
Yep. Don't forget the bobcat and the goose.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That was the thing. Because a lot of dignitaries and stuff will give presidents, gifts. It eventually goes into their library.
Right.
They were giving him animals.
Right. The animal of their country, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But he had to donate them to a zoo.
Yeah.
The President Calvin Coolidge, felt exercise was important. He believed you need your daily exercise.
Yes, he did.
Now,
how he approached it, however.
Now, many presidents and leaders at the time loved to ride horseback. Mm-hmm. I mean, we can go all the way to President Reagan. Reagan loved riding a horse.
Yeah, there was a lot of times he was pictured on his horse at his ranch.
Coolidge didn't like horses very much.
Nope.
But he did like to ride. This is a fact. He installed a mechanical electric horse called Thunderbolt into his bedroom. Remember Urban Cowboy?
Yes.
Ride the bull, bud. He had a mechanical horse. It had 2 speeds, trot and gallop, and he would ride this thing 2 to 3 times a day because he thought it was good for your health.
He thought it was a fitness machine.
He, of course, wouldn't just get on the horse and ride it. He had full Western gear, chaps, hat, neckerchief, all of it.
I did not know that.
He would wear that, and he would call to one of his butlers, bring me my Western wear. And occasionally the butler would say, sir, the Western wear is being laundered. And he would ride Thunderbolt in his underwear.
Okay. That's not a picture I need.
No.
Thunderbolt.
And you brought it up in the beginning of this. He was an introvert, but he had dry humor.
Yeah.
To the point of almost cruelty. Now, here I actually kind of like this gag, but he apparently did it all the time. As far as how he enjoyed dry humor,
Okay.
he would frequently press all of the buttons on his desk to summon his entire staff. I'm talking Secret Service, valets, secretaries. He'd hit all the buttons, calling them to get into the White House immediately.
Yeah.
Just to see how fast they could run in there. And then once he hit all the buttons, he would hide behind the curtains or a door to watch them look for him. He was, again, an odd man.
Jokester.
As we said, he had every right to run for re-election in 1928. He chose not to.
He did.
And it was confusing because, again, this was the roaring 20s, and the country was riding high economically. People were prospering. We were not at war. Why wouldn't you run for re-election?
Yeah. Seal your place in history.
What people didn't know, we've already established, and the country knew that Coolidge was naturally an introvert, but the public did not see the true depression he was in and that he was living with through the last 4 years of his presidency. He was already an introvert, but others say that it got worse and he truly became chronically depressed because of the death of his youngest son. And you can imagine it when it is as bizarre as this.
Okay.
Here's our little story. It was on the afternoon of June 30th, 1924. Formal pictures were being taken of the president and his family at the White House. He had just won his own election. Mm-hmm. Time for presidential portraits and family portraits. And the 2 boys, his 2 sons, John, who was 18, and Calvin Jr., who were 16, on a warm day, were wearing their heavy wool suits for the pictures, the family pictures. As soon as the photographer said the shoot is over with, the 2 boys quickly ran to their rooms, got rid of the suits, put on some lighter clothing, and decided to play some yard tennis at the White House.
There you go.
And they did. Calvin Jr. putting on his shoes but playing without socks.
Okay.
He developed a blister on his 3rd toe of his right foot. No big deal, right? Happens all the time. Got a little blister on my foot there. Wasn't wearing socks. Stupid, but all right, I got a little blister. This was the era before penicillin.
Yeah.
Penicillin wasn't discovered until 1928, not widely available until the 1940s.
Oh.
What seemed like a minor sports injury quickly turned fatal.
Wow. I mean, it's not even an injury. It's a blister.
It's a blister. The blister became infected with a staph infection. Within days, the infection entered his bloodstream, sepsis, blood poisoning.
Yeah.
He quickly developed a high fever, exhaustion, and localized swelling that spread up his leg.
Oh.
They took him to the world-famous Walter Reed Hospital.
Yeah.
Doctors attempted several typical treatments at the time. Again, no penicillin.
Right.
It included surgery to drain the infection out of his leg.
Yeah.
Did not work.
Nope.
They tried blood transfusions.
Really?
Didn't work. They were ultimately powerless against systemic bacterial attack. I mean, it ran through his body.
Yeah.
Calvin Coolidge Jr. passed away on July 7th, just 3 days after his father's birthday. July 7th, 1924. 1 week after developing the blister. Just playing tennis.
Wow.
Historians often note that Coolidge's personality changed after the tragedy. This introvert even became more withdrawn, suffered from what is now believed to be clinical depression, showed a decreased interest in political maneuvering, and in his own memoirs Calvin Coolidge wrote after the death of his son, "When he went, the power and the glory of the presidency went with him."
Wow.
So he was done.
Yeah.
And still had 4 more years to go.
He just started. He had just been elected.
This did not stop the press from making Calvin Coolidge's life worse.
Really?
We talk about, and we've talked about it in podcasts, how the press, as far as adultery goes, kept things very quiet. You didn't know about Kennedy's stuff. You didn't know about FDR's stuff.
Right.
It was an unwritten rule. The press wouldn't go and attack you like that.
But?
Not for Coolidge, as far as what was going on in his White House and the celebrity that blew the lid on it.
Huh.
In 1926, the Coolidge administration was hit by sensational allegations that the White House had become a hotbed for seances.
Seances?
The drama played out in Congress. Congress demanded hearings to find out what was going on in Washington, D.C. and in the White House in regards to seances.
Okay.
The hearings aimed at banning fortune-telling in Washington, D.C.
Fortune-telling?
Yep.
Wow.
The primary source of the rumor that prompted the congressional hearings, Harry Houdini.
The magician?
The legendary escape artist who, if you know the later part of his career, he was a crusader against fraudulent mediums.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Arthur Conan Doyle, the Sherlock Holmes author,
yes,
was a big believer in seances and mediums, and he and Houdini were friends until Houdini exposed that all of this stuff that Arthur Conan Doyle was doing, it was all a rigged seances, it wasn't real, and they became enemies.
Wow.
But it was Houdini that just went and said, you better look in what's going on in the White House.
Huh.
And so the hearings were started. The claim that Houdini made was that the Coolidges were trying to contact their 16-year-old son, Calvin Jr.
Okay. Well,
you can't blame them for wanting to do that.
Listen,
and it was
people grieve their own way.
And seances were really big at the time. And that's why Houdini was trying to show you it's all fake.
Yeah.
A medium named Jane Coates was quoted as saying, here's her quote, "I know for a fact there have been spiritual seances held at the White House with President Calvin Coolidge and his entire family." Nothing ever came of those hearings. No law was set. Nothing was done. A lot of humiliation for the Coolidges. But
yeah, it's a little ridiculous.
We talked about Calvin Coolidge leaves the White House, and he's not ranked as a great president, despite all the prosperity that the country had. One thing that he did take a lot of pride in, and it is actually pretty cool.
What's that?
Coolidge can claim something no other president can. He is officially an honorary Indian chief.
Yes.
He is a full-fledged chief, and he took tremendous pride in this. In August of 1927, while vacationing in the Black Hills of South Dakota, he was honored by the Sioux tribe, the Lakota Nation, for his role in signing the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924, which gained full U.S. citizenship to all Native Americans born in this country. On August 4th, 1927, during a ceremony in Deadwood, Coolidge was formally adopted into the Sioux Nation. His given name was Wambly Takaha, which translates to leading eagle.
Wow.
There are famous photos of Coolidge wearing a traditional feathered headdress. It was given to him. He was a chief.
Wow. I think I've seen those pictures, actually.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures with him wearing that. Yeah.
When advisors warned him, remember Michael Dukakis driving around in that tank, and John F. Kennedy knew never to try on a hat that was given to, even in Dallas. The Dallas City Council tried to give him a hat to wear. He wouldn't wear it.
Yeah.
When advisors warned Calvin, don't put on the headdress. It might make you look funny.
Yeah.
Don't do it. He replied, well, it's good for people to laugh, isn't it? He put it on.
Yeah.
Coolidge left the White House in March of 1929. Black Thursday was just 7 months away.
Wow. Well, he timed it right, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Coolidge and his wife continued to aid charities they supported. One of them was Christmas seals. Do you remember Christmas seals?
Of course.
Christmas seals was used to raise money to fight tuberculosis.
Oh.
And tuberculosis was what took his mother.
His mom, yeah.
Here is the former president. You know, I can find a lot of clips of Calvin Coolidge where he's talking about policy and all of that stuff. I wanted to find a little bit lighter moment.
Yeah.
And this was President Calvin Coolidge himself talking to Santa Claus in 1930 with the Christmas seals for that year, and it was put into a newsreel. So they had a Santa Claus guy talking to Calvin Coolidge.
Let's hear.
I made up my mind to make a special trip down from Iceland to have the pleasure of handing you the first seals to be released in the United States in 1930.
It's a pleasure to greet you, Mr. Santa Claus, and to help you open the sale of seals, which begins on Thanksgiving Day for this year. I note that they very properly carry your picture. I trust that those who purchase them will find a great deal of joy and pleasure in using them, and that the general public response to your appeal will be such that it will enable the Tuberculosis Association to carry on the great work that they're doing through the year 1931.
Ho, 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 Santa.
I think they might have had that sped up a little bit. I don't know. Their voices were a little high.
But you know what? Calvin Coolidge sounds like he looks.
Yeah, he kind of does.
He does.
You can see those glasses.
Following his presidency, he often expressed that he felt out of place in the Depression era 1930s. He said, this is not what I feel comfortable in.
Yeah.
His death, January 5th, 1933.
Wow.
At his home, The Beaches in Northampton, Massachusetts. He was young.
Yeah.
He passed away at 60.
Wow.
It was sudden too. His death came as a total shock to family and the country.
Did they have a cause?
Coolidge had gone to his law office in the morning, but returned home at around 10 a.m. because he wasn't feeling well.
Mm-hmm.
His wife, Grace, had gone out shopping and returned shortly before 1 p.m. in the afternoon. She found him lying on the floor in his dressing room in his shirt sleeves. Doctors determined that he had died about 15 minutes before she found him. Sudden heart attack.
Wow.
Dead.
Huh.
Now, Grace, his wife, outlived him by 24 years. She passed away July 8th. A lot of death and birth in July for that family.
Yeah.
She passed away July 8th, 1957, at the age of 78. We told you that he had one more son because the 16-year-old Calvin Jr. passed away with the tennis court. He had a son who was 2 years older. His eldest living son, John, lived to be 93 years old.
Oh, wow.
He was a successful businessman and railroad executive who spent, and I did some research on this, he spent the later part of his life preserving his father's legacy and family homestead in Plymouth Notch. He had the house remodeled.
Oh, wow.
He went and made it, got it approved to be a park area and to preserve it as it was when he was a boy growing up, and spent the end of his life trying to make sure that that was a place that people could go and visit, and
Nice.
it put together his library and all of that.
Yeah.
His son died in a retirement home in Lebanon, New Hampshire, May 31st, 2000.
Oh, wow. Not that long ago.
Not that long ago.
How about
Well,
that?
it's not that long. You know what? And I want to think of it. We say 2000. No, that's not that long ago.
It's a quarter of
Because
a
you and I
century.
are old.
It's a quarter of a century ago.
It's a quarter of a century ago. What the hell?
Oh, great story. Lousy finish.
Yeah. What do
Hey.
you got? Any tidbits?
I do a couple of things. One, the man liked to sleep. Maybe it had something to do with his depression.
Yeah, but he believed in that sleeping was good and you
He
needed
would,
it.
He would sleep 11 hours a night and take 3-hour naps during the day. He thought it made him a better decision maker.
Take that, Joe Biden.
Yeah, right? He had made, besides the raccoon, over 1,000 pardons during that one-term presidency.
Not of animals, right? Of
Yeah,
people?
No, of people, yes. Yes. Not 1,000 animals, no. And then he was a simple kind of man when it came to his food. He liked the New England dish. It was basically just corn and beans. It's a simple man, quiet man.
He was.
Maybe not so quiet if he had all those beans, but...
No kidding. You know what? But what was wrong? Nothing was wrong. He should rank higher.
Yeah,
we
I
were
agree.
prosperous.
One more thing, and I just thought it was
yeah, go
hilarious.
ahead.
He had a very unique way of ending a conversation. He would just stand up and walk away. Wouldn't say a word.
Now, you have to admit something. I'm known for doing that.
Yeah, you actually are.
I wouldn't do it as, professionally as he does or graciously.
Right.
Because he would probably quietly, I've looked at you in the face
Yeah.
and said, I'm leaving.
Yeah, you have. Cover me, I'm out.
That's true.
Next.
Oh, man, our next episode,
I want this one.
he's one of our founding fathers.
He is.
Wrote the Constitution.
Yeah.
James Madison. Mm-hmm. I didn't know this, and you won't be taught this in school.
No, you will not.
The end of his life,
Yeah.
he went into mental madness.
He did. This is a great story. You're going to love it.
2 weeks.
2 weeks from now.
Yep.
This is Beyond Mount Rushmore, the history you never knew you needed. I'm Jeff Hickcox, and our self-proclaimed presidential historian, Stan Nawalaniec.
Hi, everybody. Well,
Check out the social media.
Facebook.
Yes.
Instagram.
Yeah, and we're going to do, we have some, just really quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
We have some T-shirts that we had made up.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So we're going to do a Calvin Coolidge trivia contest. Everybody gets it right. It's going to be in a drawing, and we're going to give away a couple T-shirts.
That's a great idea. So we'll give you trivia.
Yep.
Send us the answer via Facebook.
Yep. Just answer it on Facebook. Every correct answer will be entered into the drawing.
Then all of those correct answers, we'll draw a few and give you one of our new Beyond Mount Rushmore
Yep.
T-shirts. They're beautiful, by the way.
They are. Well done.
Highly collectible. There ain't a lot of them.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll see you.